Good morning, all. Let us start today's lecture. Let me share the screen first. Yeah, is the screen visible? Can anybody acknowledge is the screen visible?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
No people are willing to join. Yeah, so before starting off with today's lecture, let us have a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous class. And the last few slides in the previous lecture were not visible, I think, because of some internet connection issues. So we'll have a recap of those as well, right? So far in this module, the Bayesian learning, we have covered the introductory part of the Bayesian learning, how Bayesian learning methods are different from the methods that we have seen in the previous modules. And then in the previous class, we discussed about the Bayes theorem. We will again revisit those topics so that the concept is clear. And then in today's class, we'll be learning about a little more into depth about the Bayes theorem. That is two uh, aspects, that is brute force Bayesian concept learning and map hypothesis and consistent learners. Right, so that will be our main area of focus in today's lecture, and followed by topics in this lecture that we'll be looking forward to learn is the ML and LS error hypothesis, then ML predicting probabilities, then MDL principle, naive Bayes classifier, Bayesian belief network, and ultimately the EM algorithm. Right? And also in between, we will be having some lab sessions so that we are in line with whatever we have done here in the theoretical class. We'll be dealing up the same thing in the practical lab, right? So we have three experiments related to this module. So we'll be, as and when we complete the theoretical aspect of these concepts, we will be taking up the practical lab experiment as well. Right. So we discussed about the Bayesian learning introductory. That is, it calculates the explicit probability. Right. The Bayesian learning is mainly uh, inclined towards the probability, finding the probability of the hypothesis. Okay. Can anybody acknowledge that I am audible? Aditya, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay. Okay, so in the introductory part, as I said, we discussed about the Bayesian learning algorithm and how it makes use of the explicit probabilities for each hypothesis, right? And one such example is the naive Bayes classifier that we'll be looking forward at the further classes, right? So the main difference here in this algorithm compared to the other previous algorithm that we have learned, Finda's algorithm, candidate elimination, ID3, right? So these algorithm, they unlike the Bayesian learning algorithm makes use of the probability, it, that it computes that how much uh, probable that particular training example will be affecting the overall result. So that probability of each hypothesis, computation of the probability of each hypothesis is what we do here in the Bayesian learning using the Bayes theorem. Right. So we will have some basic fundamental understanding of the probabilities as well. What are these Bayes theorem and different terms here in the probability. Right. So the features of the Bayesian learning method, as I said, it observes the training example that can incrementally decrease or increase the estimated probability that whether that particular hypothesis is correct or not. Right? So This is what the main concept of Bayesian learning is. And in order to compute this probability, the prior knowledge that we need to have is the prior probability of each candidate, right? And the probability distribution of each possible hypothesis, right? So these are the two prerequisites, you can say, that is the prior knowledge that we need to have when we are trying to compute the probability, explicit probability for each hypothesis, right? That is nothing but our Bayesian learning method, right? So apart from that, the other features with the Bayesian learning is it's a method which can accommodate hypotheses that can make probabilities predictions. Right. So one such example, if I have to give you, is like we mentioned in the previous class, classification of the text. Right. Understanding the text, let's say from a magazine, from a digital magazine. So that can be one application of this Bayesian learning method, wherein we are going to classify the text that we see in the digital magazine, right? So that is one probabilistic prediction of whether that word is correctly classified or not. Right. So the new instances can be classified, and another feature is that it provides a standard of optimal decision making. Right. It gives you the standard for how best can we make the decision for a given particular training data set. So apart from these features, we have few difficulties as well in the Bayesian learning. As you must have already pointed out, that one of the difficulty that we face in the Bayesian method is that the initial knowledge, that is nothing but the prior knowledge, the need of the prior knowledge is what we require here. So when we don't have this prior knowledge, when we a lack of this initial knowledge, then we can say that there is a problem, and our probability, the computation of the probability that we are trying to do will not be efficient. Right? So we need to have this initial knowledge to compute these probabilities. The second difficulty that we might face in this Bayesian method is the significant computation cost. Why significant computation cost is, as I mentioned, that in every hypothesis we are computing the probability. Right? So if the data set has a huge number of a complete set which has a large number of hypotheses, that means we have larger version space. Then in that case, every hypothesis, computation of every hypothesis, right, it becomes a tedious task. Computation of the probability of every hypothesis, that becomes a computationally tedious task, and which significantly increase our computational time as well as cost. Right? So that is another difficulty that we might face, that we need to have significantly computational cost required to determine the Bayesian optimal hypothesis. Right? So that is in general case. That is what is usually we might face a problem or difficulty here. But there are few exceptional cases wherein the computational cost can be significantly brought down as well. Right? So significantly low computational cost can also be achieved here in the Bayesian method, but that is there only for some exceptional cases. Right? But when we talk about the bigger picture, in general, there is very high significant computational cost. So that is the second difficulty, and these are the two difficulty that we might face when we talk about the Bayesian methods to be applied on machine model, right? So, with this understanding of what are the different features and what are the different difficulties we might face in the Bayesian method, let us go into depth and understand what is this Bayesian learning and what are the underlying aspects we need to consider when we talk about Bayesian learning methods to be applied on a particular model, right? So, the underlying concept is the Bayesian theorem itself, right? The Bayes theorem. Bayes theorem, you might have already aware about the Bayes theorem, but just to refresh, we will revisit those topics. These are few probabilistic and statistics topics that we'll be encountering, and we will understand few notations here, few important terms that we'll be frequently using in this model. So this becomes very important to understand this Bayes theorem. This Bayes theorem is the core concept about this whole Bayesian learning methods, right? So this same concept is used in Bayesian belief network, naive Bayes classifier, and so on. Even in EM algorithm. So understanding this Bayes theorem is very important. So what is this Bayes theorem does? What it gives us, right? It gives us the way to calculate the probability. Right? We have been talking about computing the probability of a particular hypothesis. Then how do we compute it? We compute using Bayes theorem. So why Bayes theorem? Because Bayes theorem gives us a way to calculate this probability of these hypotheses based on what? Based on prior probability, right? Based on its prior probability. Now, what is this prior probability? As I mentioned, one of the aspect of Bayesian learning method is that we need to have some prior data, some prior knowledge, right? So, what is this prior knowledge? This prior knowledge is nothing but the prior probability of this hypothesis, right? How much this particular hypothesis has been probably most efficient or least efficient, right? Correct or incorrect, or how much is it contributing to the overall result? What is the probability that this particular hypothesis is going to give us correct result? Or it can be other way also. What is the probability that this particular hypothesis is giving us wrong result? So this prior probability, when we have this data, the Bayes theorem will help us more to calculate the better probability, right? Now, the probabilities of observing various data given the hypothesis and the observed data, right? The observed data itself. The probabilities of observing various data given in the hypothesis and the already observed data itself is what we consider here in the Bayes theorem. Now, Bayes theorem is, of course, as I said, it is one of the underlying aspect of the Bayesian learning methods. So it is the cornerstone of the Bayesian learning method, you can say. The reason is because, as I said, it provides you the way to calculate this probability. Now, this probability is what we are going to term it as posterior probability, right? We call it as a posterior probability. Now, posterior probability, as we term it as probability of the hypothesis H given the data set D, right, which is represented as P of H given D, right? We will call it as P of H given D. So the posterior probability, which is P of H given D, how do we compute? We compute it from the prior probability, that is P of H, probability of the prior hypothesis, given together with the probability of the data set D that we have and probability of H, probability of D given H. So this is actually the yeah, it is the binary OR operator here. Or you can say a simple pipe operator, which is uh, notified as given as. Right? So probability of training data D given the hypothesis H. Right? So Bayes theorem, if I have to put it into a formula, this is how a Bayes theorem would look like. It is the ratio of the probability of the data given for that hypothesis as well as the probability of that hypothesis by the probability of the data set, right? The training data set that we have. So that gives us the Bayes theorem. Now this theorem, this particular formula here is very important because this is the underlying aspect of whatever the definitions we are going to see here in the further slides, right? So please remember this formula, so equation 6.1. Right. So this is the Bayes theorem. Now, with this understanding of what is this Bayes theorem, let us understand these notations, because since we are dealing with these notations for the first time, let us understand a little depth what are these notations and what do they mean. Like I said, P of H is nothing but the probability of the hypothesis, which denotes the initial probability of that hypothesis, that particular hypothesis H holds. Right? So this is nothing but the initial probability. And this particular initial probability is sometimes also called as prior probability. They both mean the same actually. Right? So initial probability and prior probability of a particular hypothesis H. And what it reflects, it this particular prior probability reflects that any background knowledge or some prior knowledge or prior information that we have with respect to that hypothesis, and the probability of that hypothesis is what we have here, right? Is what about the chance that that particular hypothesis is correct or not, right? So probability is nothing but the chances, right? That, well, for example, just to give you an example, what are the chances that a particular patient can get recovered from a particular disease, right? So that is nothing but a probability. Or what are the chances that if a particular person is exposed to an environment or a pollution environment, then what are the chances that that person can be suffering from lung cancer or can be any respiratory disease. So chance here is nothing but the probability that we talk here. And prior probability, or also called as initial probability, is what is represented as P of H. Right? Now, P of D, as I mentioned, it denotes the prior probability on the training data D. Right? So, prior probability on the training data D. Now, P of T given H denotes the probability of the observed data D given on some world in which hypothesis H holds. Right? So in general, we can put it into format that P of X given Y, right? Wherein in this case X is the observed data D and Y is the hypothesis H, right? But in general, how do we call this notation? How do we notify this thing? This is named P of X given Y, right? That is probability of X given Y. Now, similarly, P of H given D. What is P of H given D? This is what is actually we are interested in. This is our base theorem, right? So, probability of the hypothesis given the training data, observed data D, is called the posterior probability, right? So, please take a note of this thing that P of H is the initial probability or prior probability, and P of H given D is the posterior probability, right? P of H given D is the posterior probability of the hypothesis. Why posterior? Because we are going to compute, let me show you the formula, okay? Yeah, we are going to compute this P of H given D considering the other aspects here, other parameters here, right? So we cannot have this thing initially itself. We need to have this information available and then we compute it to finally calculate P of H given D. So whatever the value that we get, that's the posterior probability, and it is the probability which reflects our confidence, right? Reflects our confidence that the hypothesis H holds after we have seen that training data set, right? Only after we have processed that training data set. So these are the important notations you can make note of, and these are the notations which will be very frequently using it in a complete module, right? So whenever I say posterior probability, immediately you should recall that posterior probability is P of H given D, and whenever I say initial probability, or for that matter prior probability, it is the P of H, right? And P of D given H is nothing but the probability of the observed data D given the hypothesis H, right? So these all the terminologies you should be already keeping in your mind, and whenever we see these terms, you should immediately connect to what exactly that we are trying to do here, whether that's posterior probability or a prior probability, right? So we dealt upon a few more things, that is a maximum posteriori hypothesis, which is nothing but a maximally probable hypothesis, which is nothing but the hypothesis from the set of all hypotheses which can be called as a maximally probable. That means has the highest probability that it can be a correct hypothesis. And in order to compute that, we use the argument max, that is R max, and then compute the P of H given D, whereas P of H given D is nothing but we substitute it by the Bayes theorem formula here, and then we simply remove this P of D, right? You can see the P of D is not there in the final equation here. The reason is being because P of that is probability of the data D, it becomes constant, right? That becomes constant because we assume that the data set is going to remain same, right? We consider, we not just assume, but we consider that the data set will not be changed and we will be keeping the data same. And with that aspect in mind, we will be removing this constant value because constant will not affect much, right? So constant will be removed and only the variable aspect will be considered to compute the maximum probable hypothesis, right? Using argmax. So that gives us H map, where H is the hypothesis, which is nothing. H map is nothing but the maximum per posteriori hypothesis, right? So another situation that I have to just you know uh, bring in here is that there can be cases wherein we may end up having two, or maybe for that matter, two or more hypotheses which can be termed as a maximum per posteriori, right? So, for example, when there are, let's say, in the from the set of hypotheses, when we have just one hypothesis which is clearly the maximum probable hypothesis, then there is no doubt we can simply converge to that maximum probable hypothesis. But let us say that in the given set of hypotheses, let us consider another scenario wherein we have two or more hypotheses which are likely to be the maximum probable hypothesis. Then what do we do in that scenario? We cannot come up to one single maximum posteriori hypothesis, right? Because we can say they all, let's say when we have two or more hypotheses which are maximally probable, let us consider that all are capable to be maximally probable. Then in that situation, we can term those hypotheses as likely, right? We can term it as likelihood hypothesis, which is nothing but maximum likelihood, or ML hypothesis, right? So that says that that particular hypothesis, or those hypotheses for that matter, those hypotheses are the maximum likelihood hypothesis, right? So instead of converging it to just one hypothesis, we are going to consider a set of hypotheses which are a good candidate of a maximum likelihood hypothesis, right? So that is when the hypothesis H is equally probable a priori, right? So in that situation, the only equation gets simplified more further to be argmax H belonging to the capital H, probability of D given H. That's it, right? So this gives us the maximum likelihood, right? So just to give you an example, hold on. Let me have a quick check. Am I audible and is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
In case if there are any issues with the internet and if I get disconnected, please let me know because I'll be in the full screen mode and I'll not be aware whether the internet connection is still active or has been disconnected. Sometimes it can happen that the internet might get disconnected. Fine. So, with this knowledge, let us understand what we have seen so far. Right. So, taking an example of, let's say we have a patient and we have a data set of patients, which is about the whether the patient in that particular record, right? What is the probability of that particular patient to have a cancer or not? Right. So, among the set of example, few of you guys must be already working on such similar type of maybe projects, right? Or maybe the same project that detect a particular type of a cancer in a patient, right? So let's not get much into detail about a particular type of cancer, but let's observe that what is the probability of a particular patient to have a cancer and to not to have a cancer, and then further, to check whether what is the probability that the person who is having a cancer is correctly detected, right? Or you can say the combination of true, 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 false, false, true, and true, true, right? So we will take one example for that. For example, let's say we have a probability of patient having a cancer is 0.008, right? So that is nothing but 0.8 percentage. If you have to convert into a percentage, it can be 0.8 percentage. So a patient having a cancer, uh, chances are just 0.8%, and the patient having not having cancer is around 99.2%, which is the remaining percentage, right? So this is the, you can say, the accuracy of our system. Let's say for considering for now that the patient having cancer is the percentage of patient having cancer is 0.8, and the percentage of a patient not having cancer is 99.2%. Right? Now, let us have an example. Let us consider the probability of a patient which is having a cancer and is positively termed as yes, it has a cancer. Right? So this is a positive result in cancer. So the positive result of a patient having cancer is around accuracy is, let's say, around 0.98, which is nothing but roughly 98 percentage. So 98 percentage we are successfully diagnosing a patient who's having a cancer as yes, positive result, yes, that patient has a cancer. And other way, uh, the patient the patient not having cancer, right? We have diagnosed it as negative, but the patient does have a cancer, so that percentage is around 2% cancer, which is nothing but the remaining percentage. So 98% we have correctly classified, and 2 percentage we have wrongly classified. Right? Why do I say wrongly classified? Because the person or the patient was actually having a cancer, but we diagnosed it as a negative result. Right? So that is wrongly classified. So we can say that 2% failure you can consider here, and 98% success. And furthermore, the patient which is not having a cancer but is positively diagnosed, right? When that is nothing but we say that the person is having a cancer, but actually the patient doesn't have a cancer, the chances are, 0.03. That is 3% you can say. Right? 3% we have again wrongly classified that the person was not having a cancer, but we classified it as yes, it has a cancer. So that is 3%. And remaining percent, that is 97%, we have correctly classified that the person who is not having cancer is diagnosed it as negative result. Right. So we now observe a new patient, that is considered a new patient. This is the prior information that we have. This is the data that we have, right? Prior knowledge. Now suppose we observe a new patient, a new record, for whom the lab test result a positive result. Right? We have a new patient and we have diagnosed it as a lab test result is positive. Now, should we diagnose the patient as having cancer or not? Right? That becomes a question whether do we have to diagnose the patient as having cancer or not? Right? So these statistics, you can say this the complete information. You have a picture now whether how much accurate our system is, and we have a new data, a new patient whose lab test is positive. So with this prior knowledge or with this prior information, these are nothing but the prior probabilities, correct? So these prior probabilities will help us to take a decision whether this new patient, which in the lab has been tested as positive, right, whether he or she should be diagnosed further for cancer or not. Right? So that becomes a question. But as you can roughly, if I have to give you a bigger picture, you can roughly see that 98% we were able to successfully classify, right? And 2% we just had failure. And there are 99.2 percentage chances of the population, total population, that cancer is not there, right? So this becomes a little contradictory. So that raises a question whether we should diagnose the patient as having cancer or not. But keeping the factor in mind that our system is, let's say, 98% accurate, and it has the lab test result has been given as positive, so it makes sense to make the patient diagnosed for the having cancer, right? So there is a high chances that the patient who has been tested positive has a cancer. So this is just an example that we have seen for you to understand what can be the prior information, prior knowledge, or the prior probability, and how do we further go ahead, right? So in this case, the maximum or posterior hypothesis, right? Now you should, whenever I say maximum or posterior hypothesis, immediately you should remember the notations that we just saw, right? So how can we compute this maximum or posterior hypothesis, right? So first considering the positive cases of the cancer, which is nothing but our accuracy of our system, right? So the patients which are having cancer and the the probability of the chances of the patient being tested as positive, right? So which is nothing but our this term, right? The patient is having cancer and we have diagnosed, we have tested that patient as positive. So that factor, which is nothing but 98 percentage roughly, with the total population of the patients having cancer, which is 0.8 percentage, right? Which is nothing but 0.008. So this will give us the percentage of the people having cancer, right? And they are correctly classified. Now, on the flip side, we are going to consider the population which does not have a cancer but they have been tested as positive, right? And with the total population of the people not having cancer. So people not having cancer is 99.2 percentage, and the probability of uh, people not having cancer classified as positive is 3 percentage. Right? This is again from our prior data. This data, right? So we have to just substitute the value, and the result that we get is this. So this will give you a clear idea, right? Whether what is the maximum or posterior hypothesis. Now we have to apply the Bayes theorem to compute uh, the maximum of posterior hypothesis. So the exact posterior probability. Now when I say posterior probability again, whenever I say posterior probability, the immediately notation that should reflect in your mind is P of H given D, right? This is our posterior probability, right? Let me go back and show you the notations. Yeah. So our posterior probability of H is the P of H given D, that is probability of the hypothesis H, right, given the observed data D, right? So how do we compute that exact posterior probability? We can compute this exact posterior probability by normalizing the quantities. Normalizing what? Normalizing these quantities. Let's say, how do we normalize? We normalize the above quantities so that the sum becomes 1. The total sum becomes 1. Right? So when you add both these two, it might not be exactly equal to 1, but we normalize it to become 1. Right? Just for an example, so we put it into the formula of Bayes theorem for the posterior probability, right? And when we substitute the values, the value that we get is 0.21, right? So out of 1, when we see 0.21 is very less, I can say that is nothing but the 21 percentage, right? So that gives us the answer that it is the cases of not a cancer, that is H map is not cancer, right? So now, with this understanding, you must be well aware with these notations and what do they actually mean. What is prior probability? What is prior information? What is initial probability? What is posterior probability? maximally probable hypothesis and so on. Let us go back a little more and recall the basics of the probability that we have seen maybe in your PUCs and all. Right? So few basic probability formulas, we'll be recalling it because we'll be frequently using these formulas to compute different aspects. Right? So these probability, the some basic probability formulas, for example, product rule, right? Sum rule, Bayes theorem itself, what we just saw, and the theorem of total probability, right? So product rule, as the name suggests, it is the product of two events, right? So probability of, let's say, event A and event B. The product rule will be the probability of event A conjunction with the probability of B, right? So this is the notation for this probability of A conjunction B, right? Of the conjunction of two events A and B. So when you consider the product rule, so we have this formula, that is probability of A conjunction B is also equal to probability of A given B and probability of B, and which is nothing but, in other terms, in terms of B, probability of B given A multiplied by the probability of A. So this gives us the conjunction of these two events, probability of A and B, right? So that's a product rule. Sum rule, exactly, I mean, almost similar to it, but just the, instead of conjunction, we have the disjunction, right? The probability of disjunction. So probability of A disjunction of B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus the conjunction of both these probabilities, right? So this will give us the disjunction, right? So the third basic formula for the basic probability understanding is the Bayes theorem, what we just saw, which is also called the posterior probability, right? P of H given D, and the formula is same what we just saw, which is equation 6.1, right? And another additional formula, that is the theorem of the total probability, right? The total probability is nothing but it is the mutually exclusive, right? Mutually exclusive for all the events. Let's say when we have an event called A, till A1, A2, and so on till AN, right? So the mutual exclusion of this event will give us the total probability, right? So when we compute the total probability, we need to consider the summation of these events, right? So summation of, let's say, I is equal to 1 to whatever the limit n for all the probabilities ai to an, right? The total probability will be, of course, equal to 1, right? So if I have to just put it into the formula for the theorem of total probability, let's say for event B, then it will be summation of I is equal to 1 to all the number of iterations that we have for the probability of B given A for that instance, and then probability of A for that instance, right? So it's a product, it's the summation of two products, you can say. So that will give us the two probability. So don't worry about these things. We will derive these equations also for better understanding. So maybe in the next class we will take up the how do we land up on these equations. First two, product rule and sum rule, are the very basic rule you must have already studied in your PUC, and the Bayes theorem we have already studied. So the theorem of total probability we will understand in more better depth. Maybe in the next class we might also derive it, so that if we will understand how do we land up to this equation, right? So but for now, just understand that these are the basic probability formulas that we'll be making use of here in this module, right? So with this we shall conclude the lecture, but if you have any doubts, you are free to ask the doubts. Any particular slide that you have not understood? I can understand these are very little technical terms, few technical aspects which are not that easy to grasp at the first go itself. But these lectures will be available on the YouTube. Wherever you get stuck, you can just get rewind it, and you can revisit those concepts again, right? So you may have to revisit this lecture 2, 3 to 4 times so that the concept is clear. Right? But you have still any doubt, if you have attentive enough to understand these things, then just one lecture is enough for you to grasp these things. But it might happen that you might not grasp the things at the first go itself. Then you can revisit these videos when they are made available on the YouTube. Right. So anybody, any doubt, we can revisit that slide if you have any doubt right now. Yeah, anybody, please respond. Anybody having any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So if there are no doubts, then we shall conclude the lecture. You are free to leave the video. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.